Good evening.
Oh, yeah. Which one do I push to turn it on? Look it on the bottom.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start the June 6th regular meeting of Hopewell Borough Council. And I'll start by thanking Doug for a little bit of elbow grease and investment and getting our audio amplification system, not perfectly, but at least a little bit working. So with that, I'll call this meeting to order. And Bridget, do the sunshine statement.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice mailed to the Hopewell Valley News and the Trenton Times, posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, and filed with the borough as required by law.
Thank you. Nice one. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Here. Mr. Mackey.
Here.
Ms. McCullough. Here. Ms. Steeler. Here. Ms. Weaver. Here. Ms. Lenius. Here.
Thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to take a brief detour from the agenda. We have a lot of folks wearing orange here tonight. Just to frankly keep the temperature down in the room, literally our air conditioning is malfunctioning a little bit. I'd like to move up announcing our proclamation this month for Wear Orange for Moms Demand Action Against Gun Violence in New Jersey. I'm finding on the agenda. Thank you. So our proclamation for National Gun Violence Awareness here in New Jersey. So since we have a lot of folks here wearing orange and a lot of volunteers from Moms Demand Action here, if anyone would like to come up to the front, I'm happy to take a photo with you guys and thank you for your efforts here as volunteers as we recognize this this month.
Yeah. Thank you. No cat. Why would I want to snap a picture every day? Okay, we cannot say that. I think everybody has. Yeah. And then all right, 3, 2, 1, cheese. Yeah. All right, let me take a few. They're straight, okay. I think I did.
So I want to thank the representative from Moms Demand. If anyone would like to say a few words, I'm happy to invite you to the front and do so.
Yeah, I'll just, I don't have any prepared.
And I'll say with apologies, while we've made some progress with microphones, that one is not on the list of ones that has had progress.
I will speak loudly. Project your voice. Okay, yes, thank you. I am Sue Repko. Last year I spoke to you all, and this year I'm actually now a resident of Hopewell Borough. So glad to be here. Yes, I got involved with this, the movement to reduce gun violence in America. As a child, I witnessed an unintentional shooting in my backyard in which my father unintentionally shot and did kill a neighbor while repairing a firearm. He was a gunsmith. And there was negligence involved. And so gun safety has been a concern of mine for many, many years. And Moms Demand Action has chapters everywhere and is very active in New Jersey and very appreciative of the local support here through Wear Orange and very appreciative of the strong legislation that we have here in New Jersey to keep us all safe. So, and we're constantly keeping an eye on that and pushing back against bad gun legislation and trying to encourage sensible regulation. So thank you very much. There is a Wear Orange event, a big event in Trenton on Saturday, but we know what's happening on Saturday here in Hopewell. The yard sale day, so, we understand that, because elected officials now around the county are invited. We understand, what's happening. So, anyway, thank you very much, for recognizing, Wear Orange again. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Moving next, it's gonna take a while to get used to, having an amplified voice. So, if I'm, in recent weeks, we've had raise your hand if I need to be louder. Maybe there's a signal, or I'm too loud. So item 4 is our report of the Director of Public Works and Water and Sewers. If anyone has any questions before we accept those. Thank you. Moving on, those of you at our May 13th meeting on the potential sale of water system, or our prior council meetings may recall that we're going to have a standing meeting item for questions and updates on that process with our water system. As always, there's updated information on the website, including a link to the video of the May 13th open house town hall meeting, if you'd like to watch that at home as well. Our water committee met this past week. David or Krista, do you want to perhaps give a quick update? I don't know if we've set a date for the next event yet or not.
Yeah.
We haven't set a date, but we're planning to have another, informational event here. It's probably a little bit less formal, but we haven't, it's gonna be, I think, sometime in July, so we're working on some additional. Oh, there you go. I don't know.
What's your mic?
I have to hold it there.
When you see the red light, it's working.
So you're in the push to talk about that.
We're working?
You can turn on underneath, in my room like now, I'm saying,
I left him on push.
is mine working?
Yeah, you're on push to mute. If the red light is on, then it's live.
How about now? Yes.
Well, now you're muted.
All right. Well, I don't know. There you go. So we're gonna have a meeting at some point in July. We haven't figured out the exact date. We'll be kind of coordinating with everybody's vacations. We're gonna have some additional materials, additional discussions of the finances and other materials, and also just an opportunity for people to raise questions, maybe things that weren't covered in the last meeting. So we'll just keep doing whatever public outreach we need to do.
Thank you. Well, also one other, I guess, piece, the action that was taken on the 13th to ask DEP for the permission to start this alternative process to explore the Water Infrastructure Protection Act was submitted. So the DEP is now reviewing that. So likely the next thing that will be coming from the borough would be kind of announcement that DEP has accepted or perhaps rejected our request to enter that process. That's something we'll announce to the community because there is an appeal period from that. So with that, we will open the meeting for. So if the red light is on, your microphone's working. On the bottom, there are 2 options. One is push to talk and one is push to mute. So you're David Brown, push to talk mode. Right. And you have to push and hold it down. Right. And so for those of you in person and online, we will open the floor for questions and comments from the public. This is our first of 2 opportunities. Well, 2 opportunities generally. We have at least 1 public hearing this evening where there will also be an opportunity for an ordinance. With regard to public comment now, I'm going to make 2 requests. So there are 2 items on our agenda that myself and another member of our body can't speak on. So if there are comments or questions on the redevelopment, there will be an item on this later on as well. But if anyone has comments or questions on that, I'll ask to take them now. I'll step down and Krista will help run the meeting and run that. The same goes for online. If you have a question, push the hands up button, the raise hand, and we can recognize you. The idea is that if people have questions now to make sure that I can easily avoid this. All right. Second thing goes, I guess there's an item, an introduction for an ordinance to adjust on West Broad Street. One of our members, We will be participating in that, so if there are questions or comments on that, perhaps now would be the time for those, so that we don't have to get up and down so many times. So that, if there are questions, comments, please come to the front. I'm happy to hear them.
I do. I just,
No,
okay,
wait to the front so we can.
okay, I'm Bobby Fishman, I can understand why this is a new ordinance. I was prepared to talk.
And unfortunately, that doesn't actually.
Okay, so that's not, I'll just yell. I don't know why we needed this as a new ordinance. My understanding is that this was an existing ordinance. But I'd like to speak anyhow.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to apologize. I was here, hard to talk to everybody, to you and to them. I was here 2 meetings ago. And I apologize for taking up time 2 meetings ago because my understanding at that time was incorrect. And my statements at that time were not true. I believed at that time, after seeing the sign that had gone up on West Broad Street, that somehow a 200-foot exclusion to parking from the Mercer Street corner needed to be shortened to 100 feet. And I now strongly believe that that exclusion was legally already 100 feet. And I was urging the council to reduce that exclusion, and that was unnecessary. So I apologize for that. But now I need everyone on the council to please understand that this issue for me is about our livelihood as merchants. It's not about power or our appearances or wanting to hurt anybody's good reputation. It's just about my ability to make the very little bit of money that I make at my business. And I'm not sure you understand how much we absolutely depend on the people who see our shops for the first time and stop. They need to make a very quick decision and stop. And if heading west, they get to the Old School Baptist meeting house, that's the first place that they will see most of our shops. It will be too late to park if you do change that code to allow 200 feet exclusion. I hate being here to talk. I hate talking in public. And I hate having this issue take up far too much of all of our time. And making me cry. And as I see all the things that seem to impossible to believe going on. So when that sign went up in February, and the merchant said, there must be some mistake. Why wasn't the first act to try to find out why the sign went up? Then get it down. You know, if the county put it up, why wasn't a call made to find out why? If an ordinance was claimed to exist that explained it, why wasn't this ordinance shown to us? As far as I can tell, no one sought out those ordinances. And it seems so simple. I believe that the most recent parking ordinance was written 12 years ago when the street straight came to town. I think it very much mirrors what you're putting out now, and I don't really understand why this is now. And that ordinance lessened the parking restriction on the north side from Mercer to 100 feet. And confirming this should have been simple. I don't know how one can learn which ordinances apply to which parts of the code. So I've asked to see all the parking ordinances so we can corroborate my belief that the latest one was for 100 feet. Now, I should not have to be the one doing this. I should not. But in addition to the time involved in trying to determine whether the sign has a legal basis, there turns out to be another factor in this far too long story. The building across the street wants there to be no parking in front of it. Okay, so they want to change the code to allow that. Not the merchants. We believe the code allows that parking. The council thinks that they need to take everyone's wishes into account. In the meantime, our parking has been restricted for 4 months as of tomorrow. That extra 100 feet means 5 parking spaces in front of our 5 shops. We have a total of 7. And that's really 6, unless people arrive at the same time and agree to squeeze together enough block routes. At this point, taking everyone's wishes into account would be pretty time consuming. That none of us can afford. And I have just one last point. And there's no precedent or legal defense for claiming public street property as one's territory for any use. It hasn't been done in this town, I believe, and I suspect it's something that should not be allowed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob. The later this evening, an ordinance to remove any reference to 200 feet will be introduced, so it can be discussed and voted upon.
It's your ordinance, and
If you'd like to speak, please go back up to the front. It's
we will pass that. And I again, I don't quite understand this.
But if we're happy to continue your comments and testimony, but we need to be able to hear it. And vote on
Okay,
it.
I said, I do hope that's a sincere ordinance, and I do hope that it's passed, but I just, as I said before, I don't really understand it, because I thought that already existed as you're amending it. I already, so can you tell me how it came about?
As you found in the public requests that you made, these are all very ancient things. I've done a lot of research on it. I have my theory. I don't know if that's what's happened. The action that's currently contemplated, right now, there's one that says 100 feet and one that says 200 feet. The ordinance provided removes 200 feet. That would leave only 100 feet as being the notice.
So there was a conflict in the ordinances that were on the books. We don't know how that conflict happened. But it's being resolved through the ordinances being introduced.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I need to say my name and everything. Okay, I'm Brianna Perone. I'm in Wallano here in the borough, small business. I have a question.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, so I have a question then about the ordinances, Ryan. There's David just said there's 2 conflicting ordinances.
Well, there are 2 conflicting distances in the code book.
Right, so there's, okay, that was what I just wanted clarification. There's different in the code or there's 2 actual ordinances.
Well, they're probably,
Well, so Lisa will help me here when I get it wrong, but
Uh-huh.
an ordinance is a one-time thing with a number, between 7 and 2.
Mhm.
Those are then codified, which means it's put into a book essentially with all of the rules jumbled together. Sometimes there are references to the ordinance number and the date for when it was done. For example, at one point, likely during that streetscapes project, there was an attempt to have a 135 feet from Mercer, between the 100 and the 200-foot lines, to have a mid-block crossing. Historically, I think I understand why that didn't actually get put together. Still on the books, there is a number for that one. We could kind of track and see at what date, there was a discussion and an ordinance put together to add a mid-block crossing, 135 to 150 feet, kind of in the middle of this extra 200 feet that we're talking, or extra 100 feet we're talking about. I think it might have been related. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But each ordinance is a piece of paper with an action. And for the ones that are not a bond or a payment or approving an agreement, they're then put into called our code book, which is a list of laws. No parking here, put leash on your dog, that type of thing, where you can find them by topic. And once that happens, sometimes the historical references exist, and the original piece of paper, maybe from 20 or 30 years ago, might be found. In every instance, that's not the case, and I know their staff is looking for the ones that were related to this, and I think haven't yet found them.
Okay, so I'm aware, like, I know the code, so in the code book, I've seen both. This moment, the fact is just that the borough has not found either ordinance at this point.
I haven't found.
Lisa, can you speak to that?
Sorry.
I haven't seen.
I am in the process of fulfilling local requests.
Right, we're still looking for it, and it's
I have
not.
not in our file drawer, I have to go and get them in the archive.
But traditionally, one way to resolve situations like this is to correct it. So once you have a new ordinance, you can essentially,
Yeah.
you change what's in the code. That's one method of, you can't find the original ordinances.
I'm not hearing you.
I was just saying, if you, one method of correcting what's in the code, such as it's inconsistent, because you do have an inconsistency, is to adopt a new ordinance where you essentially fix within the code. So that's what this ordinance would do.
Thank you.
Hi, David Waldman, Borough resident. I support everything I've heard from Bobby, being a small business owner for years, for a short period of time here in the borough, but in Lambertville, parking is critical. And what I call the serendipitous pull over that shop looks interesting, that is not trivial, that's huge. It's huge. I had a coffee shop, and for $2-3, wound up meeting with the mayor of our town and lobbying the borough council very strongly in 2005 and 2006, because our part of town is mostly residential and unmetered. And I basically had already spent my fortune building out my space, and my fear was no one's gonna pay 75 cents or $1 in a meter to buy a $2 coffee. So just emphasizing that I hear Bobby loud and clear. And I hope you guys will embrace and understand the importance of serendipitous. Wow, that shop looks cool. I want to pull. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Gigi Armstrong. I live in the borough, and I'm just here to show my support for our merchants because I love merchants in Hopewell Borough. They're fantastic. Our shops are very high quality. They're wonderful. They're not scuzzy, and I want to keep them. They make the town, they give the flavor of the town what it is, why people want to live here. So I want to protect them. I want to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I suggest that we have comments generally so that we can, so that all of our council members can hear and address them. Just ask one more time, particularly online. If there's anyone who would like to make a comment on this particular topic, to anyone having get up and down a few times during our discussion. We've got one here. Now, if you can hear us, Ms. Keller, if you turn your camera on and introduce yourself, you should be visible here in council room, and hopefully we can hear you as well.
Yes, hi, everybody. Can you hear me? I just want to briefly add to what the other folks have said about how critical these small businesses are to the flavor of our town. Our property values, are implicated in this as well. What makes Hopewell special is independent shops, and that west end of town is such an important little zone for us. And I know that when I park there to go to Hopewell Antiques or Dandelion Wishes or the Guatemalan store, that very often I have parked in exactly that area, which is now cordoned off. So please, let's show all the support we can to what they're doing for us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to turn it back to the audience. If I push the wrong button, I don't need to hang up on you. it's a little tricky to return you back to your normal status, but unless there's any other, I don't see any other hands raised. We're not yet closing our public comment yet, but it sounds like that unless there's any other comments on this topic. Even if there are, we could deal with it, but
I have some comments. This is a perfect time. You let us know.
I think, let's continue our. So, yeah, I think that's important.
A few of us have comments tonight.
But I think that's it, unless there's, yeah. Apologies, I mean. Go give for a minute, and, but while that's happening, if anyone, has comments on, and any other topic that, might not cause myself to step down, happy to, hear them now. I'll give another chance for those online to push the raise hand button. Not seeing any there. Again, kind of last call, and there's several opportunities elsewise. But with that, I'll take a motion to close public comment.
I'll second.
And all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we've got two sets of minutes, May 2nd and the May 13th special town hall meeting. I can take a motion either on both or just one.
I'll move.
There's a motion on both resolutions, both minutes.
I'll move for both.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, you're doing second. All those in favor? All opposed? All right, thank you. All right, the next item, item 8, is our second reading and public hearing on a funding issue for our DPW site and the use of ARP funds. Reggie, if you could read that by title.
An ordinance of the Borough of Hopewell in Mercer County, New Jersey, authorizing as a general improvement regulations to the Public Works Facility and appropriating 199,498.27, therefore, for American Rescue Plan grant funds.
Doug, if you want to just remind us a little bit before we open up to the public, how we're using this for our DPW project.
As Reggie mentioned, we have almost $200,000 that was given to the borough as part of the rescue plan. And we're repointing those dollars to the capital project of the public works facility, which is going to be between 1.6 and 1.8.
This is to, this is to finally give our public works folks, some of the facilities they need. This is not the full project.
Right, and this also brings us into stormwater compliance with our salt barns and other issues.
That's why we have to have a new salt enclosure to comply with the new stormwater rules.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is critical.
I think we're expecting a fairly busy meeting in July, but likely in August, we might have a presentation from our architect to talk about types of improvements we're actually looking at. And then before I open up to the public, I'll note we're talking about ordinances before. This is the type that wouldn't be codified in our rules and laws. This is the type that's kind of a one-time thing, allocate some money, and you'd never find it in the code book after this. So with that, open the meeting to the public for discussion or comments for the public hearing on ordinance 886. I'll also extend that online. Please push the raise hand button if you'd like to comment or ask a question about this particular ordinance. Seeing none in person or online, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance.
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor? Six, I'll take a motion to adopt ordinance 886.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Ms. McCullough,
Yeah.
Ms. Steeler, Ms. Weaver,
Yeah.
Ms. Lenian.
Yes.
So our next two items are ones that I have a professional conflict with and can't participate in. So I'm going to step down and get the gavel over to Kristen. Enjoy the air conditioning for them.
I'm also recusing myself, I don't think it works, but I'm also stepping down and over.
Okay, first, I would like to introduce resolution 20. Do I do it or you? I do. 2024-70, appointment of legal counsel, Gerbert and Kiefer, Hopewell 57 redevelopment project. So, can I get
Yeah, just to introduce myself, I think, I came to the Borough Council as a result of your planner, Joanna Slagle. My name is Tara St. Angelo. I'm with the law firm of Gebhardt and Kiefer. I am pretty much, almost 100% by practice now a municipal attorney. I represent municipalities as municipal counsel. I represent planning and zoning boards, and I also represent municipalities and boards as insurance defense counsel. I've worked with several municipalities doing redevelopment plans for commercial projects as well as inclusionary developments, which is what you are looking at here. So if anyone has any specific questions for me about my resume experience, be happy to answer any.
Does council have any questions?
So Tara will be assisting us as we move through the redevelopment process, the entire. So,
So I will take a motion to approve resolution 2024-70. Second? Second. Okay.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Ms. McCullough?
Yes.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Fleming?
Thank you. Well,
Thank you. Okay, next up is the introduction of ordinance number 887. This is the first reading of the 57 Hopewell redevelopment plan. Our planner, Joanna, will be giving us a brief presentation.
I'm gonna read the ordinance.
Oh,
Okay. So, yeah. An ordinance of the Borough Council of Borough of Hopewell County, Mercer, State of New Jersey, establishing the M-F multifamily redevelopment overlay zone, amending chapter 12 zoning, article 21 zone district regulation.
Okay, so what you have before you tonight, and I talk loud, so nobody has a problem hearing me usually. What you have before you tonight is what we call the Hopewell 57 draft redevelopment plan. I'm gonna provide just a quick context and background of this plan. We're not gonna go into anything substantive tonight because this is just an introduction, but I want to give you some kind of framework to work with as you kind of go through this plan and where we're at. So this is a draft redevelopment plan. As you may recall, the Borough Council in 2016 designated this particular site as an area engaged redevelopment under the local housing and redevelopment law, local redevelopment and housing law, redevelopment law for short. And what that did was open up these tools of redevelopment for the borough for these particular sites. At that same time, the council directed the planning board to prepare a redevelopment plan. And that's what you have before you. So the planning board has prepared this plan and it's in accordance with all of the requirements that are laid out in the redevelopment law. So as you read through this plan, you're going to see sort of a twofold document. One is it lays out the vision for the site. And so what does that mean? That means how you want the site to look, how the borough wants to see it developed, that you want it to be architecturally sensitive, historically relevant to that area, what type of uses you want, which in this case is multifamily residential. And it'll also lay out in the back in that appendix A, it actually has a zoning ordinance, and that's the development regulation. So that's going to identify how the buildings can be placed on the site, where the parking can go, how close things can be, how much open space there can be. So that's sort of the second half. When you read through the first half of that document, you're going to see a lot of text. Some things that you'll think, why is this? Redevelopment law has very specific criteria of what you have to have in a plan. Some of those items are not relevant here, but I still have identified them and addressed them in accordance with the law. So some of those things you're like, what are we talking about? And so that's the draft redevelopment plan. We're not talking about this tonight, but just for your information, the planning board had a meeting last night. I think some residents who had stuck it out with me were all a little blurry-eyed. It was a long night. And we were able to provide sort of I gave a presentation. It was an overview of redevelopment, where we're at. It provided sort of an outline of what's in the plan. we had David Mackey gave some additional historic context for the site. And we had the interested redeveloper provide their vision and how he felt that it lined up with this redevelopment plan. And at the end of that, we actually had time and people were still awake after the talking, to ask questions, comments, and I think we had a really good initial discussion so that additionally, the public has some context to work with this plan. So tonight, and the second half of that was that the planning board in their duties, they have to find that this plan is consistent with the master plan or in municipal land use language, not inconsistent with the plan. I don't know who wrote that, but it gets me every time. And so the planning board at the end of that discussion determined that the plan was consistent with the master plan and directed the board attorney to provide a letter to Borough Council to that effect. And so we've taken care of that step kind of through that process last night. And so tonight is just an introduction. I just wanted to give a framework. This is really just to put everybody on notice that the plan is out there. Please read it. I think it's available on multiple forums. And so at whatever time that the Borough Council decides, there will be a publicly noticed hearing. And that's when we'll have a really robust conversation about the plan. We'll really get into the details of it. We'll have presentations and we'll allow that conversations about it. But tonight is just for introduction. That being said, I know that we have a lot of the members on council work here. We've actually gone through this entire process previously with the lumberyard. And there's a lot of steps. So I'm here tonight just to answer questions on process. Tara is also here. If anybody has sort of those logistical questions on what the next steps are, what we should be doing, we're happy to answer those questions.
So does anyone on council have any questions for Joanna or Terry? No.
So Joanna, I just wanted to let you tell me whether it's correct the way I described this, but I just want to make sure that people understand the difference between a redevelopment plan and, for example, a site plan application, because I always find the terminology sometimes.
Because we say plan an awful lot.
So in practice, is it accurate to say that in effect, the redevelopment plan is essentially like a rezoning document for this particular parcel? In effect, I mean, that's a different formal, but then what follows is if we go through this process of introducing and adopting a redevelopment plan, then the person who wants to redevelop the site comes in with a full site plan application the way anybody ordinarily would, which is the thing that really has all the details, the specifics, the site plan, architecture, all of that stuff.
That's correct. So, we say plan an awful lot and it's hard to distinguish that. So a redevelopment plan is similar to a master plan. So that's really goals and objectives. It's sort of, kind of an umbrella. So the redevelopment plan acts as sort of the overall vision, gives you the goals and objectives, tell you how it's going to work. But if the redevelopment plan is subsequently adopted, that's when then the actual construction, what we call site plan, comes before the planning board, and that will have all of those details. How it's actually going to be physically laid out. Nothing's been site designed. Nothing's been, we don't have a site plan for this yet, a construction plan. This is really just to guide development so that everybody has a level of expectation. So this document really provides that level of expectation between any potential redeveloper in the borough that this is the borough's vision, and the redeveloper can read that document and understand what that vision is and what those development regulations are. So nobody's going to be surprised by what's in that plan.
So in that second stage of the site plan application, there's yet another public hearing.
Yes.
Where there's opportunity for public.
Right. It has to follow all the traditional municipal land use law requirements. It has to be a notice of public hearing. They have to submit all the information. They have to come before the planning board. Anybody who sat through the two applications before we got to the presentation last night, it got a little flavor of that. And so it's a process.
It's a process.
It is a process.
Thank you, George.
Okay, figuring out that. So I actually just have, a quick question about the ordinance that we're actually. Is everybody else getting that?
Yeah.
It's the feedback.
Yeah, Loud, okay? Because I stayed up last night, and I watched, so, and the comment that the person made from the watershed about taking advantage of that opportunity, for stormwater management reasons. And I just noticed that the language we have at the bottom of C, it says, enhanced stormwater management structures shall incorporate green infrastructure wherever practical. And I was just wondering if we could have stronger language. I'm not enough of a, land use geologist to know what. I felt that the watershed comments were spot on, and I wanted to make sure that we're.
So actually, that's additional language, and again, I don't want to get into the subject of it, but, so under the municipal land use law, whenever an actual site plan comes to the planning board, any developer anywhere in the state has to provide, all of their what we call outside jurisdiction approvals. That's DEP, that's, whatever department might have some sort of control over that site development. In this case, for stormwater, any developer is still subject to all of the new stormwater regulations. They have to comply, and they don't even get approval from local. They've got to get their approval from DEP before they can move on. We've added that extra language actually into that ordinance to encourage additional green infrastructure that
Beyond
beyond what DEP has required.
So just to add, this would be what's called a major development under the stormwater rules, which has really extensive engineering and technical requirements for stormwater. I mean, way more than, we've been having discussions about minor developments like around 1,000 square feet. This is where you disturb more than paper pieces, literally volumes of engineering standards that apply. So it's not as if, there's any effort to skirt the rules.
No, I didn't think that. I just thought.
As your board engineer, oversees all of that to make sure that they comply as well as what they're getting from the DEP. So they're the ones that are integral.
And sort of the same thing on the lighting, and I would just.
Yeah.
All right, if council has no further questions, I'd like to take a motion to introduce ordinance 887.
I'd like to introduce it, please.
Thank you, David, and a second? I'll second. Thank you, Deb.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Ms. Capella? Yeah. Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Linian?
Yes.
And I just want to note that the hearing will be held on July 1st.
Right, and we're gonna make sure we reach out to everybody by land here and sees that everybody knows about that meeting, right?
It'll have to follow all the required notice and also 200 foot limits.
Right, but also just, I think we were talking about, we used postcards for the town hall water meeting, and there were a bunch of people in the audience who said, oh yeah, I found out about that. So anyway, we'll talk about that, just because we want to make sure that anybody who has a statement of interest knows has an opportunity to speak, so.
Yes, we'll do our best to get the word out. All right, thank you, Joanna and Tara, Lisa and Mayor Kennedy, if you guys want to join us again.
Thank you. Sorry.
I did not. I was. But I heard it has.
Apologies for the delay, I guess, in music and stuff, so we can all actually take the people out at the moment. We are now on item 11. This is the introduction of ordinance 888 for first reading, mid-block crosswalks and no parking schedule. Reggie, if you could read it by title.
An ordinance of the Borough of Hopewell, County of Mercer, New Jersey regarding parking, amending chapter 7 and 7A of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Hopewell, 1975.
I'll try, I think as we tried to explain or explained earlier, this ordinance would remove the discrepancy between whether it's 100 or 200 feet, deleting the 200-foot part so that the no part here would only be 100 feet, and also removes the references to the mid-block crossing at 5 feet that was never built at the same time. I'll take a motion to introduce ordinance 888.
I'll second.
All in favor? So the public hearing and second vote on this will be on July 1st at our town meeting. And I'm just noting again, I'll try to do this a couple other times, because of the 4th of July would be the normal first Thursday of the month. The first week in July for our meeting, we're on a Monday, July.
I'm going to be confident in the situation.
Would you like, well, there'll be an opportunity to talk about the ordinance, is it involved the ordinance that we just discussed?
Yeah.
Well, there's no discussion, I mean, Lisa, is there?
Can I just do a roll call?
Sure.
Ms. Hook? Yes. Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Ms. McCullough?
Yeah.
Ms. Steeler?
Yeah.
Ms. Weaver?
Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
I think the appropriate time to talk about the ordinance would be during the discussion of the public hearing.
Well, I think there's some things that need to be said tonight. And a number of us, I just don't think we should be given the opportunity to speak.
What is the topic of it?
Topic is how this was handled in town by a specific council member and then all.
I would prefer, considering how this evening has went, and that we have an opportunity to speak on this and change the situation, either amicably or openly, and discussion that we do that at our next meeting.
Yeah, I need to speak about it tonight. Can't wait until, I don't know how everybody else feels. Krista, Sherry,
So from a rules of order perspective, we don't have anything on this on our agenda. If you'd like to make a motion for
like,
some type of discussion item, you're welcome to make that at this point.
I'd like to make a motion to discuss what's happening in town. So does anybody else feel that way? Sherry, Krista?
I'm gonna abide by the rules of order, so it makes more sense to do it next month and we should do it next month. I do agree that there needs to be more of a discussion.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm gonna honor the minutes.
Okay, fine. Very unfortunate.
Next, we have a series of consent resolutions. We'll wait for Ms. Williams to come back to this to do that. I will note that in soliciting this motion, I will ask that item 2024-75, appointment of legal counsel for the PFAS class action, be pulled out and handled separately after our resolution, after our executive session. So later this evening, the council will retire and have closed session to talk about possible legal action. That resolution is to hire a special outside counsel for that action, so it makes sense to happen after we have that discussion. So with that, I'd request if anyone has a motion or any comments or questions or any other resolutions that to take out. Otherwise, I'd take a motion for 71 through 79 minus 70.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Um,
No, all right.
Ms. Hook?
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Ms. McCullough?
Yeah.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Next, I'd like a motion to approve the claims for payment. Second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Sorry, roll call again.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Ms. McCullough?
Yeah.
Ms. Steeler? Ms. Weaver?
Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
All right, we have two proclamations this evening. We talked about National Gun Violence Awareness earlier. The second one we have is Pride Month, recognizing June as a Pride Month. Appreciate everyone on council or efforts to recognize these two Item 15, we have to fill an unexpired seat on the green team. Been a resurgence in volunteers on that and been unfilled for quite some time, so happy to see it go. Is that required action or just an announcement?
We'll just,
Thank you. Next, council liaison reports. Samara, we'll start with you.
A couple for me, they did not meet since the last meeting, municipal alliance. To attend, like, able to attend that meeting, they had a guest speaker, Michelle Webb from Creative Counseling, which is in Hamilton, New Jersey. More information can be found on the Alliance.org website, but they have peer recovery programs, which is a free resource for individuals in recovery and provides safety events for individuals as well. They also hold LGBTQIA plus meetings for community members for free as well. We also heard from the Youth Advisory Board and the committee that they are forming because in the last survey that they put out, they found that youth in the valley did not feel like they were heard. That they really weren't part of the community, so they're going to be doing a lot of work on that. They have the two high school seniors there. It was really interesting to hear there. Lastly, this is sort of the difference between municipal alliance and Board of Health. He's in
It's one step forward and then.
Greater Mercer Public Health Partnership has put out a survey that will be on our website. If it's not already, it's also on the Municipal Alliance's website for anyone in the valley to fill out their concerns about where we are and our health in our communities so that our boards of health and the hospitals and the other organizations in our area can better serve us. If you don't feel comfortable doing it online, or if you don't have access to the internet, you can also fill out the survey at the Mercer County Library. So I definitely urge anybody who has a few minutes to go ahead and do that so that we can make sure that our boards of health, our hospitals, and our organizations are serving us as best as they can. Just a quick sort of sad news for me, at least, for Board of Health, our health officer, her last day will be on June 14th, Dawn Marling. She served since 2020. She has been a phenomenal resource to our community, to the township, to the borough. She will be missed. She's been great for me in my transition as the Board of Health liaison. So I just wanted to say out loud publicly how lucky we were to have her and how much that we will miss her. There is a transition plan in place. Her position's been posted. There's also a vacancy posted on the Department of Health website for part-time public health nurse. So if anybody is looking or knows anybody, I urge people to apply. Two more quick things. Sorry, I said I was going to be quick. I'm just talking a lot. Still the issue, and we talked about this a little bit in the last meeting of community cats. We put out information from the Department of Health in conjunction with a rescue and a veterinarian in the area about community cats. There are still a few colonies that are pretty significant in the borough. I talked to the animal control officer about that as well as some residents, so please know that that's still something that we're trying to work through. And we did have a meeting planned with the Department of Health for the previous week with representatives from Pennington Borough, Hopewell Borough, on some development initiatives that have to be postponed, just as we wait for new help.
Thanks, Mary. Deb?
The Recreation Department is hosting Food Truck Friday, next week. And it's at the elementary school this year due to the construction at the train station. So times, is going to be a little harder to get tables and chairs. We don't have to get just like table at the train station like we normally can. So people are probably going to have to be a little creative and bring blankets to sit on or something like that.
No, I think we're gonna, our brief experiment with the amplification system as it stands now is gonna end for the evening. We will project manually.
The library board meeting is next week on Tuesday, so not a whole lot of news to talk about there.
One thing I did want to mention, sort of from a recreation standpoint, Heidi, the cruise night that the EDC is putting on, has not been brought to the attention of this council, and all events that are held under the auspices of the council need to be addressed by us first. I spoke to Doug about it today, and you know, there's insurance, there's the police presence, there's parking to think about. Apparently there's gonna be music and pop-up stands and this and that. They also put the borough website on social media, and it's not on the borough website. It's not a sponsored event, so I think we have to look at whether it can actually happen next week, from a liability standpoint, because it's, yeah.
That's a good thing to work with the
I
administration.
will say, I mean, I had in the report, we discussed it at the EDC meeting.
Right.
And it's put, it was put on social media before. I did not realize it was being placed on social media, but I do, if somebody had reached out to me right at that moment, I could have actually asked the person who posted it.
Okay.
Okay,
I just saw it, so
yeah.
Well, I guess we'll need to just going forward, work with our administrator, make sure we have some clarity on, you know, the things, schedule and things like that. Make sure, and historically, because there was a prior time where there were three cruise
There
nets
were-
once,
yes.
and there were two for a while.
And I guess because we had historically done it multiple times a year. While it got posted before, I thought
The short answer for most things
we
is
could
that,
absolutely put a better system.
the short answer for most things is that, not what would Doug do, but, you know, that,
Everything goes through
yeah,
that.
correct, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yep,
He's the man.
that's fine. So we can do that.
yeah, especially because he's advertising to park on Broad Street, and so that looks like use at this point, right? If they're gonna block off.
No, they're not gonna block off any. Yeah, I'll cover any EDC. But yes.
Okay. The building committee, there's a lot to talk about, but I'm not gonna talk about much else. I'm not saying that. There's a lot to talk about. Your behavior
Thank you, Deb.
and the skills that we created in this town.
Deb, thank you. Two things. One, I'll make it very clear that, I'm the one who runs this meeting. I'm gonna be,
That's fine.
in charge of the forum we have here. And second, places we might be going, or you might be going with some of these discussions that actually have legal implications, and I want to be just very cautious with where I think you're going there. So with that, Dave, apologies for having something unsavory before you put unsavory water.
Our water's not unsavory. All right, so, two things. Well, actually, I'll start with planning board first, because that's relatively straightforward. I mean, as Joanna explained, we did have a public discussion, initial unveiling, if you will, of the draft redevelopment plan at the planning board last night, which was the thing. We had also a hearing on basically a modification of the plans for the proposed Hopewell Inn, which, as you all know, has been, you know, kind of there's been a delay, apparently resulting mostly from the availability of steel that they ordered and whole problem with supply chain stuff. But they also, so they wanted to make a change from what was originally approved, which was 6 apartments and the restaurant, and now they want to have 8 apartments. So what they've done is they've reduced the size of the restaurant. They're going to have a second floor dining area, which they're no longer going to use, and have 2 additional apartments. So that was reviewed and approved by the planning board. And there was a third application for an accessory dwelling on the property in town. It's also reviewed. So on to water. As everybody knows, I guess we had this town hall meeting on May 13th to discuss specific utility and mechanics of all that. I mean, it was very well attended, and hopefully the future meetings also will be. I thought it was a good discussion and lots more to say as we go forward, looking at the options. As everybody here in town knows, the PFAS public notice update was sent out last week. I'm sure you've all gotten them. It's exciting stuff. The main difference in there is our results are still below the New Jersey drinking water standard, the MCL. But the EPA in April announced finally, after months of sort of equivocating, that there are new standards that they are going to adopt nationwide, which didn't exist before. This take effect in April of 2029. So there's a 5-year phase-in period for those new PFAS numbers, and 3 years of monitoring. So there are many states that have no standards at all for drinking water. New Jersey was one of the ones that did, because they're usually burnt on these things. And the EPA drinking water maximum contaminants are lower than the ones that are currently in New Jersey. The state of New Jersey is basically we're held to the current standards until April of 2029, when the new standards kick in. What it does mean for a lot of other water systems, it doesn't change much for us if we decide to keep our system, to put in treatment systems. The treatment systems that we would install would meet all those standards. But it means there are a lot of systems in New Jersey that right now are below the DEP standards that won't be in 5 years. And I think that's why, and nationwide. So, but anyway, I did my best to explain that. So people understand. It gets pretty complicated when you realize you have state and federal rules and all the complications with this. Let's see. On May 10th, this was just an administrative thing, but we requested a deadline extension. We received an administrative consent order for going back and forth with drafts with the DEP. This is basically a formal document that has to do with addressing the PFAS filing 2021. And we've been going back and forth on the mechanics of that. And it was all basically predicated on our applying for a grant for these treatment systems and then putting those treatment systems in place, which is still a possibility depending on where we go with potential water stuff. But we had to ask the DEP for some time to add some additional language to this, which Lisa is going to do, which essentially creates an off-ramp. So if we decide we're not going to keep the water system, we're going to sell it, we would not want to basically take a $2.3 million grant for these treatment systems. We don't know whether a buyer would want those treatment systems or we'd be reimbursed for them. And the DEP understands this, so, and they were very flexible. So we have a new deadline. 8th, right? So Lisa will get together then. Leak repairs. So there were 4 leaks that were repaired beneath Broad Street in different areas. This amazing. Last week, we've been waiting a while for this because they had to have an outside contractor to do it. As I probably mentioned ad nauseum, there's 8 to 10 inches of reinforced concrete below the pavement of Broad Street, which makes it very expensive to get at anything. They have to come in with a big diamond saw and cut through. Give you an idea of how difficult it is. Guys are working at that. They broke 2 jackhammer bits just breaking up the concrete. I mean, they literally were snapping tools. But anyway, they got those done. And what's going to be really interesting is to look at our water usage numbers for the next month or so to see how much of a difference it makes. These were all relatively small leaks, but collectively, they could be significant in terms of cost savings. So looking forward to that. And just in terms of water usage, so as a result of 2 things that we've done in the last year, fixing leaks wherever we can find them, including one particularly big one in October, but also replacing our well pump in April with a new pump that's actually giving us more output. We have managed to reduce our water bills significantly and overall, and to reduce the amount of water that we're using overall in the system. So if you compare our water demand in May of this year to May of last year, the overall demand is down by 23% in the system, mostly due to leak repairs. The volume of water that we purchased from New Jersey American in May was down by 48%, and our bill was reduced by 42%. So from 31,800 last year to 18,000 this year. So this is all good news. And again, we will see hopefully more improvement. The gap between what we produce locally and what we purchase shrinks, and bills shrink with it. And we also we had a DEP inspection in April and we received a notice with some items in it to be corrected. This is just fairly boring stuff, but one of them was we're actually required to negotiate terms or renegotiate terms in New Jersey and guarantee a water supply. Right now, we've had a contract for years that basically provides us with all the water we need, but it's somewhere in there it says, well, it's not a guaranteed supply. And the DEP wants us to do that to ensure that we have a stable supply. So it's an administrative thing that we'll take care of. And we told them we asked for 6 months to figure that out since we're dealing with a big corporation. And a couple of other repairs, we meet for this and that. And that's about it. Thank you.
I do want to go next.
The EDC, the cruise night, as I think we all know, was very well attended. Heard a lot of positive feedback. And next spring, when we do the full cruise night, we will try to make sure to have music on both ends of Broad Street. Because the only issue was hard to spread out the action to both ends. And so we will, try to line up music on both ends next time. As Deb mentioned before, EDC has talked about having a much lower key event over the summer called Hopewell Cruise, which is basically there's no designated show car parking, there's no pop-up vendors, there's no, specific live music unless like I think if Otto Burger happens to have live music on that night, then Otto Burger will have live music. But the idea was to create something that wasn't a heavy lift for the borough or borough volunteers and honestly, in the hecticness of it all, because the flyer went up before I realized it was going to, and my bad for not getting it to Doug. I should have pulled the borough website off of it, or got, anyways, my apologies for the order in which that happened, but the idea is that it is simply, and Brian here has offered to help gather more cars. The idea is just to invite cars into town, both classic cars as well as more modern cars, to park where they find available parking, and to just drive a bit more foot traffic into town one Saturday. That is the goal. There's not, it's not a full cruise night, which is why we were trying to rename it something, calling it Hopewell Cruise. So the idea was to try this out on Saturday, June 15th from 1 to 5, see how that goes. And if it goes well, is well received, we could do it again in July and August. But it's an experiment. Onto the planters, the sponsorship signs are all in the planters. Lori Cleveland's gonna be working on a press release, that she will draft that. We'll send that by Doug as well, just to announce that that the planter project is moving forward. If anybody happens to use them, there is a problem with the QR codes, and we're gonna be getting stickers to cover those because the QR codes aren't working very well. We are also working to have the old HBA signs refurbished, and have the new business names added to those. That will be an expense borne by the businesses that are placed on it, but I did speak to Doug and said he thought the public works could help with the ones that need to be straightened. There's some that are leaning a little bit. And we will share additional EDC comments. Our committee chair is here, and I will let her share comments during public comment. On to Green Team, our newest volunteer is Jack Gallagher. Thank you. He is now our newest Hopewell Borough rep. And we could still use additional support. So if there's anybody out there that's been thinking of joining the Green Team, has environmental passion, or would just like to help out with sustainable Hopewell Borough, please reach out to me. There are a lot of ways to get involved. We did have a successful zero waste potluck this past weekend in Gazebo Park. We hope to have another one in the fall once the train station renovation is complete. Because that way we could also do it inside if it's cool. We have been awarded a $2,000 grant from Sustainable Jersey, which will be used for composting and recycling education and community engagement. So far, by the way, we have collected 100 pounds of plastic film. So thank you to everybody who's bringing in their plastic film. We are looking for 2 more volunteers to help with the transport. We take plastic film to Wegmans in Princeton. So if you are interested in volunteering with that, you can also contact me, and all our council members' emails are on the website for anybody who doesn't know that. June 8th, which in addition to being the yard sale day, is also MCIA Hazardous Waste and E-Waste Recycling Day, at 350 Lawrence Station Road in Lawrence. So that is another good, way to recycle your things. You do need to be a Mercer County resident. And with bulky waste coming up, the Green Team and Sustainable Hopewell Borough just want to remind you to please not be wasteful with your bulky waste. Please remember to donate or recycle if possible before you add it to a bulky waste pile. If you put something on the curb hoping someone will take it and they don't, if it's in good shape, please don't leave it for bulky pickup. Bulk pickup is all gonna go to a landfill. So if you can put it in your car, you can drop it at Goodwill or another place, there's Goodwill on 31. And there are also other places locally, that can pick up. And those are the reports from EDC and Green. Thank you. Sure.
I have quick updates. The fire department responded to 37 calls in April, and yeah, it's better, lower is better. EMU responded to 44. And I don't know if you attended the pancake breakfast, but it served almost 700 people and generated $7,500, which was great. They need more money than that, so feel inclined to continue to donate. They would always use it. If you're wondering what they use their money for, they're updating some equipment, some of which was purchased in the 1970s. They tried to fix it, but the parts weren't even available. So they're getting much needed upgrades to their equipment. On May 11th, Hopewell Township hosted the inaugural Mayor's Award for First Responders, and Mayor Kennedy presented awards to our very own Hopewell Borough First Responders, Chief John Novak Senior and Lieutenant Luke Morehouse. And I don't know, I wasn't able to go, but it seemed like it was a nice event.
It very much was. It was, yeah.
And if you're so inclined, the Hopewell Township Police Department is celebrating their 50th anniversary on Saturday, June 8th at Woolsey Park. Woolsey Park, yeah. The Senior Advisory Board is having their next meeting here at Borough Hall tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's by Contact Reassurance, which is a county service for people who are elderly or infirm, and they'll do daily wellness calls to check in on you. And lastly, Shade Tree Committee has been very busy, and we just approved our updated request for attention to municipal tree form and application for tree removal permit. Thank you to Lisa for keeping us on track. And Reggie, we're gonna need some substantial updates to the Shade Tree page on the website. I don't know if you want us to work with you or communications, or
So
we
the
just.
best suggestion would be to print it out, write what you think it should have,
Okay,
what should be, and get it to Richie.
okay, all right, great. We'll do some. Thank you.
Chris?
I'll start with PDSAC, which did not meet this month, but they have joined forces with Sauerland Cycles to offer free bike seat adjustments. So if your bike is uncomfortable to ride, chances are that your seat is either too high or too low. The Pedestrian and Bike Safety Advisory Committee has arranged with Sauerland Cycles to offer the borough residents a free seat height adjustment. While there, they will also be able to let you know if your bike is safe and good to ride. So feel free to stop by there. And other pedestrian and bike safety news. The Hopewell Public Library is hosting a bike and pedestrian safety workshop on Saturday, June 22nd from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. at the Hopewell Presbyterian Church. The workshop will be presented by the Brain Injury Alliance of the City. Also, the Mercer County Vision Zero Task Force met on May 20th. And this is an organization made up of representatives from various municipalities who have come together with the goal of developing a Vision Zero policy for Mercer County. We've also been tasked with providing safety plans for each municipality as the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission was awarded a Safe Streets for All grant, and the Mercer County, Mercer Transportation Management Association has been tasked with distributing Mercer County's share to its municipalities. And lastly, I attended the New Jersey Bike and Walk Summit on May 18th. I was a panelist for a session called Working with Your Municipality, along with Councilwoman Candace Faust from Eatonton, New Jersey, Kathleen Ebert from the Greater Mercer TMA, and Sean Meehan from New Jersey's Safe Routes to School Resource Center at Rutgers. Our session was such a success that we are taking it on the road, and we have actually been invited to do a session for Sustainable New Jersey called Build Better Streets, Local Perspectives to Enhance Mobility and Safety at the New Jersey League of Municipalities this fall. Our session is scheduled for Tuesday, November 19th from 3:45 to 5 p.m. And all these guys will be there. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of tips for me. For those of you who like coming to coffees but not drinking coffee or not eating donuts, because no one ever does. But the normal second Saturday administrator and mayor's hours event is moving to the 15th. So it will not be this Saturday. The website's been updated. It'll be the 15th this month. And please, if you actually do want to eat donuts, tell us, because no one eats bagels or donuts as it turns out. It's consistently surprising. On May 15th, Senator Booker advanced a federal funding request on behalf of the borough to assist with our railroad station. If you recall, we had received a $250,000 historic trust grant for what turned out to be about a $725,000 project. It's going on right now. We have another grant from the state of New Jersey that is being worked on now. But Senator Booker is working on hopefully an allocation federally to assist us with that project. And we appreciate his staff for helping us at least to this point. No promises. June 15th. I mean, stop me if that's what you mentioned. I don't know the days, but this is overlapped. But June 15th at the Mercer County Public Library West Windsor branch, there is an open space meeting with the county that the public is invited to, really to meet the new administrator and talk about what the county's open space goals are. We've invited our planning board and extend that to council as well. So if you do intend on going, perhaps let me and Doug know that if we have more than 3 of us, we need to make sure that we don't have a problem. June 27th as well, as soon as I have the details, we'll be inviting everyone from council for a lunch at noon. Again, this is subject to sunshine rules. Only 3 of us can actually go, but the county is going to have an event about their plans to upgrade the airport that we will be invited to. As David said, on the water supply, please watch the website for additional announcements on the next steps with our potential sale, including the date for our next open house event. Affordable housing, no quite action yet, but for those who follow at home, there's been some new legislation recently. Our planner just this afternoon sent us a draft of a memo that I believe we'll be able to share with council soon about some of the possible next steps for us in thinking about attending to our affordable housing obligations and what the new process will be. I have no update on the 2 pending pieces of litigation. One with Verizon on the property tax issue with their wires that was argued by the Supreme Court about a month ago. No decision on that yet. The second is our pilot payment in lieu of taxation dispute that Pennington and Hopewell Borough are in with Hopewell Township. It's a school funding issue that is currently on appeal with the appellate court. That has not been scheduled for argument yet, and at this point, it's likely not to be heard until the fall. Someone mentioned the June 8th police event. I'm sorry to announce the resignation of our OEM representative, Bill Springer. And I just want to publicly thank him for everything that he does and has continued to do for this community. Former chief of our fire department and a volunteer in every possible way and want to thank him for helping us as much as he's been able to, thus far. Two or three other things. The borough will, starting this summer, be participating with a county planning process on what's called the cross acceptance of the state plan. Remember a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, we talked about our little mini master plan reexamination. The state has a version of that as well, and the county has offered to kind of take the lead on negotiating with the state on what Mercer County thinks needs to be in here. And there'll be some meetings coming up potentially for us to be involved in the state plan. I want to thank, just before I forget, and I know we thank them a lot, but the Hopewell Township Police Department, anecdotally, I hope everyone sees this too. You know, the efforts of everyone working on lowering our speed limit and traffic safety. Hopewell Township Police Department is a big part of that, and we see it. And I just want to publicly thank our chief and his team for everything they're doing to be visible in town and slow people down. We see it and appreciate it. Also, just a specific shout out to the chief. There was a recent resident request on an issue, and extremely responsive, and really appreciated his helping out on something that was a really delicate issue, unfortunately, with an accident. One last thing, Mercer County is working on a grant for EV charger network for their trade buses. This is kind of a transportation system available for, and it's one of the few items actually that is even available in the borough. As you know, we don't have a New Jersey Transit stop or really any kind of public transportation other than this county program. So hopefully they get their grant and convert their minibus network that some of our seniors use, for example, to an electric fleet and get some chargers in the meantime. So that's what I've got, Doug. Anything you want to add from you?
Yeah, I'll be real brief. We started the railroad station work started on May 29th, so we have that underway. We're thinking about September. Yeah. That should be concluded. We're putting in a NJDOT grant for 3 roads for 2025. Biggie, Eaton Place, and North Landing. That was part of our 5-year plan. The water main on Newell is done. The services are connected. On that project, we started on Walnut, the reconstruction. So we added 2 basins. We redid the engineering plan that we originally had. This was about 2-3 years ago. And so we redid that because the one owner at the bottom of the hill was getting crushed for this thing. So we put in 2 basins and we also tonight we approved the temporary construction easement. Temporary construction.
Yeah.
Easement, we said, just put that together.
Access agreement.
Access agreement, thank you.
Sorry.
And so we'll be able to clean up that situation there as well. Plus with the 2 basins in the current, it should really improve the situation. So then from there, we're gonna jump over to Newell to do that reconstruction and curbing. And then last but not least will be Mercer. It's a simple mill and pave, something to bang up those 3 roads. We're meeting on Friday. I'm meeting with Bob. We're gonna do a walk at Park. Try to complete the engineering for that. We still have hopes of completing that this year. So that'll give us 4 roads this year. That'd be great.
Can I ask you a quick question about Mercer?
Yeah.
When they do that, what's gonna happen in the parking lot that's next to whole parking lot goes?
Well, it was take us probably half a day
Oh,
to
that's
mill
it.
to mill it,
Okay.
to mill away 2 inches. Then the road will be open that evening. And then when they come and pave, probably for the bulk of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
That's good.
and then we'll be, so it really depends on how many trucks the contractor runs. You know, because that machine, the milling machine and the paving machine can go as fast as, you know, the asphalt and the truck to take the millings away is available. So most contractors want to get in and out, so they bring sufficient amount of trucks and, you know, it's a small street, so they can
Yeah.
definitely do the milling in half of that.
Okay.
And the paving would probably take about 6 hours. And then 6 or 7 hours, and then depending on the temperatures, 2 to 3 hours to set up that you can open the road without jumping in there.
But will the parking lot be accessible from Broad Street though? So we won't have to close that.
And with the recent, soon to happen road projects, I guess there's a post on the website at, Hopewell Borough dash NJ.US/roads, I guess that has this information.
Yes, yes. And just a refresher, we sent out a notice to all the residents, I guess it was beginning of April. So if you need to make any connections to gas or anything, that was the time to do it. So, we introduced the new road moratorium meetings ago, so. In preparation, David mentioned we repaired the 4 leaks under, East Broad. We're also replacing the 13, sanitary sewer castings. That's all in preparation for the paving that the county is gonna do in, probably in August, so. And that'll also help our infiltration into our sewer system. That means we're just paying for rainwater, at the sewer plant, so we want to always try to reduce that, so that'll help that as well. We also, going back to the wells, we also, on well number 4, we also, in addition to bringing us into compliance with the check valve and the meter we can do, we also put in a variable frequency drive, which will improve the efficiency of the motor that we have just put in. And so we'll see an energy savings for that, and it also increases the efficiency of the motor, so.
Because before we were just throttling it back with the valves, the motor's doing all this work and you're just
So
cutting this down with the valve. So now you actually control the motor, so the motor is pushing against this.
good deadhead, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So that'll be good. We did get a 66,000. We recall we applied for a grant for the Welcome Path around Afghanistan. We were awarded 66,000 this year. So, we'll get that started, and we'll continue to apply for the grants. As they become available, and we said we were gonna do it in sections, so we'll just continue with that plan.
That's pretty good.
It's good, we'll get that stuff. We have some stormwater basins that we're gonna do in June. We already have the quotes and everything. We're just waiting for the budget to be approved and waiting for all that to shake out, so we'll be. That's it. If anybody has any questions.
Oh, did you get any updates from the county on the bridge project? Well, Princeton Avenue Park Road.
Not a one.
Okay, I saw guys out there clearing it months ago.
Yeah,
Doing,
I know they're having trouble with the staging. Okay, and so they promised to give us updates when there was a change.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen anything since the staging.
There is a placeholder for that on the roads, little blurb that the county was kind enough to create the program they use is gonna only have very limited full closures, and then have a bypass thing, so hopefully it will not be a significant impact on getting it out of the borough.
so I recall there were only 3 days when it's actually closed, and every other day there's one lane up. Every race has to be nice and share it.
Yeah, I think there's 3 in the beginning and 3 at the end of the project.
Yeah.
It's 3.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
All right, next, I'll meeting to the public, just like as a point of order, maybe to Lisa and Reggie. So we are, after our public session, we are going to have an executive session to talk about potential litigation. We will come back from that and expect to take action.
Possibly.
Possibly, okay. Just wanted to point that out since this is the last public discussion point of the evening. That we'll still have both potentially an action item after we finish the executive session and we talk about some litigation. So with that, I'll open the meeting to the public, both online and in person. And I guess when you come up to speak, if there's a topic that perhaps not everyone can talk about, let us know first.
A topic what?
As you've seen this evening, there's a couple topics that either I
Oh,
or I can't speak on, so, okay, thank you.
I just, my name is Carol Kehoe. I owned Hopewell Antiques for 20 years. Before that, I lived in the borough for 15 years. It's making me look really old. And about 20 years ago, we bought the old barn up on Featherbed, my husband and I. So we live up on Featherbed and I operated Hopewell Antiques. And I think I worked on your first campaign. You were the first council. Yeah. So I mean, it's so funny to be facing you now. It's just too much. I just want to thank council so much for the action you took tonight. I'm very, very grateful. It has been so economically painful. And you know, that end of Broad Street is such a strange area because it was the real commercial center of Hopewell Borough. And my building until the sixties or seventies had no apartments over it. It was all warehouse space upstairs. And now we have 4 apartments up there. And originally, even 20 years ago, people had 1 car. Now there's couples, they have 2 cars. And so that whole area, a lot of the houses have turned over into apartment buildings. And we're a real community. We work with residents, you know, can you not park in front of the shop right now? Actually, my building is operated by a Hopewell Township police officer whose father owns the building. And it's real community oriented. And so when, I just want to tell you briefly, because the question about the crosswalk came up, about 13 years ago, the borough engineer showed up at my door. It was this time of year. And he said, okay, we're gonna start with you with streetscape. Get ready, you're getting 2 trees, 2 benches that face each other 5 feet apart. You're getting a trash can, a recycling bin. You're getting 3 hitching posts and a crosswalk. And I said, oh my God, I sell furniture, what are you doing to me? And he said, well, nobody else wants it and you're at the end of the street, so everything's coming down to you. And I said, that's really difficult. So we worked so hard, everybody in that community, to create that crosswalk, which was desperately needed. And if you know, there were a lot of abandoned stores at that time, abandoned buildings. I mean, they were owned by people, but there were no stores. So the building next to mine, where Bobby's store is, was empty at the time. And the building where Mabube's Antiques is now was also partially empty. And so that's where you'll see all the streetscape things. They got the hitching posts, they got the benches, and they got the planters, you know, but because nobody could say anything, you know, nobody wants. So the crosswalk was a problem, and we went back and forth. The 200-foot ordinance, which I'm not going to prove to you, but from what I knew over the years, was an ancient ordinance that the liquor store guy told me was used for unloading the kegs. If you notice, there's a walkway back there, and they used to take the big beer trucks in, and they used to unroll the kegs into the back of the beer. And also the oil trucks from Valley Oil used to have to turn into that narrow driveway, and they delivered oil. All my buildings, all the buildings behind me now, they're not mine, have been converted to gas, as have places like the Knight's House and that kind of stuff. So that whole area, that was a major delivery area. And when they were all converted, the guy who ran the liquor store started having his employees park there. So there was a sign, and before 13 years ago, there was a sign there that said no parking here to corner, but it was a rusted old sign that was only the liquor store took as its kind of private parking. It would put his private employees there and stuff, even though they have the biggest parking lot at that end of town, it was just advantage. So 13 years ago, the deal with the crosswalk was we lost parking. It's hard to believe. Scott Fulmer pulled up some streetscapes for me, which blew my mind going back. I mean, I don't like to think about how long I've been there, but before streetscape, there was actually parking on my side, the shop side, at the post office box, almost up to the light, which is so dangerous. You come into that light, I don't know if you remember, David, you come into that light and you'd be like, oh, get really over to go, you know.
Yeah.
And so we put the crosswalk in, not we, but we negotiated, put the crosswalk in, got rid of a ton of parking, and then clarified that 100-foot ordinance. So it's very messy, and I'm not surprised that it was sloppy and not cleaned up, and this was done and that was done. But I just want to emphasize that it was a real community effort. I have a lot of in-town customers, but they can only buy so many jelly cupboards. So my traffic now comes from Princeton. 75% of my traffic comes that direction, comes from Princeton. That's why I took such an economic hit without warning. I mean, I came back from the recession, I came back from streetscape, I came back from COVID. But the past 3 months have been just a nightmare because they come down from Brooklyn, they come from Princeton, and they're going to Lambertville, they're going to New Hope, and they're going to Lahaska. They're going that way. And if they can't see me and pull over and say maybe we'll stop here, they stop, they come in. So customers coming from Pennington are not where my business comes from. They don't come that direction. Probably more Bobby that way, but not me. And what happens is I give out more maps of this town than any other business. Because they'll stop and I'll say, they'll say, Luncho, go to Chubby's, go to Peasant Grill, go to Antimo's, go this way. And it feeds the town. And nowadays, the last thing I want to say that's most important to me is I hate this because I was raised on a farm in West Windsor, you know, I'm a walking person. People will not walk. They will not walk half a block to come to your shop. they will shop online or they will park and come in, especially if they're looking at furniture, lamps, they just won't do it. I mean, they might do it after I talk to them, and they might do it once I have regular customers, which I have wonderful regular customers. That was a totally surprise tonight, and that was so nice to hear that, but they just won't do that. And so that's why I think parking, like, it's like someone grabs you at that gut when parking happens, and it creates, I mean, I was saying to Ryan, you know, I was at downtown Hopewell business meeting, and we were talking about trying to fundraise for the laundromat and fundraise for the restaurants and see if we can help them with this water bill that's so huge. I think the laundromat has a $12,000 water bill. So businesses are trying to find ways that we can maybe do something to help support these businesses. And I looked at my books and I'm down over $20,000. And I have people call me every weekend and say, we're gonna stop, we couldn't park. Because it doesn't matter if there's a parking spot farther up the street, it has to be in front of me, it has to be there. Or that's a big retail space, that's a big building. And as the residents have expanded, people use that entrance now as a back entrance to the park. All this is wonderful Hopewell stuff. You know, I was one of the first 5 people that sat down with Susan Schnorr to save the ruling track. And we thought, well, we can't do this, it's only 5 people, and you know, it grows from there. So I cannot tell you how much I believe in the community, I believe in history. You know, I believe in the Old School Baptist Church, I believe in preserving it. For years, they've used our bathrooms, they don't have a bathroom, they come over, you know, you know, I close early Thanksgiving Eve for parking for them, you know, we've always worked together down there. And I just want to emphasize that with whatever stress there may be in working all this out, it was just hard to have even that sign, well, for me, after Streetscape, to see that sign, I almost had a heart attack, I thought I died, something had happened. But I think that, you know, we really care about each other that in the street, and it's a real wide range community from economics all this way, that way. And I just want to thank you for seeing that and really helping to end this nightmare, because I really didn't think I was going to be able to stay in business. And I'm so grateful for you guys for sticking up. And if you ever have questions, I hope people will talk. I'm always willing to come in and talk, and you know, we gotta work together. So, anyway, thank you. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. My name is Brianna Perone. I'm the owner of Oak, but I'm also the chair of the Economic Development Committee. I just wanted to share a note from our last meeting on May 21st. We wanted to request that well, first I want to say thank you. I do believe that the ordinance 888 is a great step forward for us to, you know, hopefully fix the issue with the parking on the corner there. But we would also request that we can have this sign be removed, the no parking restriction sign be removed or covered until the issue with the ordinance is resolved.
No, thanks for the request. I don't know that we can do that, but we'll look at it. Thank you.
Adrienne Diniak, I'm a borough resident, and I'm just curious about that sign covering or renewal during the period of time of the Mercer Street repaving, because that's going to put pressure on parking for all the businesses in that area.
So, thank you. So we have any other comments on this topic, or perhaps one that I can't speak on? I'll step down. If not, certainly any other topic, and I'll slowly ask, so Ms. Williams can get back to her seat before anyone does so. I'll ask online as well. Ask anyone to raise their hand virtually. And I'm not, both not seeing any, but also not seeing the window. Apologies to anyone online. Seeing none, I guess we'll accept a motion to close public comments. Do I? Second. All right. All in favor? So for those of you still here, we are about to take a motion to go into an executive session. And I'll say again that we will likely return from that to when I say public session, I mean open session where we might take action. If we could allow us to finish this, yeah, thank you. So we will, after we finish executive session, we won't have any more public comment, but we may take action in the form of that resolution we carried, which might be to hire an attorney for a piece of litigation, PFAS, the thing we talk about in our water. There is, money available. There was anyone watched that movie, was it Mark Ruffalo, The Dark? Anyway, there's a movie now streaming, yeah. Anyway, we get some of that. Well, it's a good movie. Anyway, so with that, I'll take a motion to.
He's so handsome.
I'll take a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of getting attorney legal advice on the PFAS litigation.
I'd like to move it.
Right, all in favor? Aye. Right. Thank you, everyone, from the public for attending tonight. And as soon as we.
Can it really be a
No,
meeting?
you got it.
First meeting I've ever. No complaints about the air conditioning.
Right, and for those on Zoom, I'm about to mute and stop the video. We will return likely for other action at some point later this evening.
It's hot. Yeah, I'm ready. When I'm ready.
All right, so we're back in public session. I'll take a motion, I guess, to table 2024-75 to a future meeting.
I'll move for second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I would also accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll move. Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
More, I have.